definitely go ahead and get started. I'll share my screen, and then people also, sometimes it works really well if they just want to pop their questions in the chat, and then we can address them, you know, either halfway through, midway through, or at the end. But sometimes that's easier because as I'm sharing slides, they may have a question that pops up. So can you guys see my screen? Just want to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put it in presentation mode then. As other people join, everybody, you know, welcome to pop in. But my name is Renee Vollmer. I actually work with Ryan and Stephanie and Illinois Health Agents. I work for UnitedHealthcare. I've been with the company for, it's going to be 23 years in August. And I've always done this role. So I've always been in a broker facing role. I've always worked with our broker community, basically in virtually every state that we do business in. So very familiar with the products we offer and the different state dynamics that we do business in. And today, in discussions that I've had with Ryan, we have decided to at least kind of kick off some training with our Health Protector Guard, which is our fixed indemnity product. Critical illness and accident, we're for sure going to cover those things. And then as time permits, we'll either delve into the dental, vision, and mental health complete product, or like I mentioned to Stephanie, if we run out of time, we can always schedule maybe a quick follow-up session for those remaining products. So we'll just see how time allows. First product we're going to cover is going to be Health Protector Guard. Why we're talking about Health Protector Guard is because, as many of you know, short-term was kind of scaled back, right, with an executive order from the Biden administration saying we could only sell 3 months with a 1-month policy extension for a total of 4 months with any one carrier in a rolling 12-month period of time, which that's okay, right? So you could get 4 months with me, you can get 4 months with Pivot, you can get 4 months with Allstate and give your client a year's worth of coverage. But it's not a good solution because we're going to underwrite every carrier is going to underwrite at that 4-month mark. So that's not the best solution any longer for somebody. And then tri-term, for those of you who have non-resident licenses with us, tri-term is absolutely not offered right now. Now, there is a lot of debate whether that product is coming back. We could know within the next month or so if that product is coming back based on a meeting that I attended this morning. So, but if it doesn't, we hope for the best, plan for the worst kind of scenario. And Health Protector Guard has kind of become our go-to. Our fixed indemnity product has become our go-to for what would have been a short-term or tri-term client or demographic previously. Also, there's a matter of debate as to whether the increased subsidies that Biden afforded everybody would extend through this year. They are set to lapse or expire at the end of this year. There's a belief in the industry that they will be allowed to expire quietly in the night. I don't think they're going to advertise that. But if they do, there's potentially a lot of ACA clients who are not going to get as much of a subsidy or any subsidy any longer, and they may be a short-term, tri-term, or fixed indemnity consumer again come the end of this year. So fixed indemnity, average 3-day hospital stay, without any insurance, this would be wholesale cost, on average $30,000. Now that's just for your room and board. That's an average hospital stay that may have included a surgery or some type of other reason for the hospitalization. Fixed indemnity benefits are going to be per covered person, regardless of the actual expense. So the biggest thing I can tell you as you're looking at this training today and as we go into some of the plan grids is that remember, what you see is what you get. I probably say that 1,000 times during these presentations because it actually is that simple. What you see is what you get, regardless of what the bill is, regardless of whether you had other insurance, regardless. What you see is what you get. Legal makes us tell you it's not major medical coverage. We don't want brokers selling this plan, leading clients to believe that it's something that it's not, right? It is not ACA. It's not major medical coverage. It's not MEC. It's not minimum essential coverage. It's not a MEC plan. The upside to that is we don't require an open enrollment period for this to be sold. We don't require a qualifying event for this to be sold. You can sell this all year long with as soon as next day effective dates. And we do have some medical underwriting that we will cover as well. Why UnitedHealthcare as opposed to some other carriers that do this type of plan in the industry? We obviously have industry experience. We have UnitedHealthcare's name behind us and our backing behind us. We've been also offering this type of plan since 2016. So we have longevity in the fixed indemnity space. Biggest takeaway, if you take nothing else away from this presentation, is our network strength. And our network strength is what makes this plan work for so many people. Average discount, I need to update this slide. I was just told last week our average discount has now increased to 58%. So average discount off of services rendered is approximately 58%. That's a nationwide average. We put the Choice Plus network on this particular plan. So on this plan, I'm giving you the biggest network that United offers. Choice Plus is also the biggest network of any insurance company in the country. So I am giving you the best network we have, which is also the best of any insurance company that you could get for your client nationally. 1.5 million providers, about 7,000 facilities. And again, it's a nationwide network. Even if we don't sell the plan in that state, you will have a network in that state. So for instance, we don't sell this plan in the state of Washington, but if you're in the state of Washington and you need to seek care with a Choice Plus provider, there are providers there. There are providers in every single state. Teledoc is included. So Healthiest You is a product that we sell on its own for $20 per month. But for this product, it's included and baked into the plan. You're not charged an additional $20 to have Teledoc, and it's an automatic included feature with the fixed indemnity plan. We're going to talk about this in more depth, but there is a reason that people should stay on this plan. So we call these permanent plans. They don't have an end date like short-term or tri-term, right? They don't expire. And even if you really get down to it, ACA has an end date. Every year, your client likely is going to have to revisit their option for the coming year, right? Did the same carriers stay in the market? Carriers go in and out of the ACA market all the time. So is the mix of carriers still the same? Is the price still something that they can afford? Did their income change? So now that their subsidy changed, making them make a different decision. Did the network that's attached to their plan, did that change, making them make a different decision, right? So ACA, people are at least reconsidering their option at the end of every year. This plan is permanent. As long as your client continues to pay premium with us, they will continue to have a plan with us. And we're going to increase some of their benefits over time so that in years 2 and beyond, they have better benefits than what they started with. Some of those things are going to be like increased benefits for mammogram, pap smears, PSAs, some additional office visits, and then some additional prescription benefits as well. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail in those when we go look at the plan grid. United Healthcare loves our acronyms. I feel like we have an acronym for everything. And this is just one more. So WORKS is the acronym, and it stands for wellness, office visits, and prescription drug coverage under the plan. And that is what I would consider the everyday stuff, right? That's the little stuff that we all seek care for. It's not the big stuff, it's the little stuff. And so this first portion of the grid is explaining what benefits you get under wellness. Works 1 is the least benefit rich, Works 3 is the most benefit rich. So people can get a wellness exam 1 time a year. Obviously, most people are not getting more than that. And we're going to reimburse the following amounts: 80 to 125 per person on the policy, 1 per year. And that's for your physical, basically. And remember, again, when you're looking at this grid, what you see is what you get. So if you go for your wellness exam and I have Works 3 and the doctor submits the bill to us, it's an in-network doctor, $200 exam, we negotiate it back to 100. We owe 125 based on the plan you bought if you bought Works 3. So now the doctor is saying, okay, United says the most I can charge for this is 100. It comes to us. We pay the doctor 100 based on a negotiated rate, but you have $125 of benefit. So I'm going to pay the doctor the 100 I owe him or her, and I'm going to send a check to your client for $25 because we owe 125. So when I say what you see is what you get, we owe 125. In that same scenario, if the doctor billed us 200 and we negotiate it back to 150, for example's sake. So now you owe 150. We have a benefit of 125. So we're going to pay 125 to your doctor, and your doctor is going to bill you, the client, the remaining balance of 25.
Hey, Renee, what if the doctor's office won't process the claims? Is there a scenario where they say you have to submit this on your own?
The only time that a doctor should ever tell you have to submit on your own is if they're not in network. If an in-network doctor is telling one of your clients that they need to submit this on their own, I need the name and phone number of the doctor's office that told you that, and we will have our network administration department reach out to them. If they are a network doctor, they are contractually obligated to file the claim for the client.
Got it.
Health screening diagnostic labs, diagnostic labs, these are like your routine blood work, right? This isn't the labs where they're looking for something wrong. This is just part of your routine physical. Reimbursements there of 25 to 100 up to 2 tests with health screening x-rays, also reimbursable on plans 2 and 3. Mammograms, bone density EKGs, stress EKGs, and colonoscopies, you can see are all age related. So for mammograms to be reimbursable, you have to be 30 and over. EKGs on a preventive basis, not diagnostic basis, preventive basis, have to be 40 and over to be reimbursable. The one exception to that is going to be the colonoscopy. If it is a routine colonoscopy, just we recommend you do this because you're age 50 or over. Then it's reimbursable under this benefit. Or if your doctor says, look, you have a family history of problems, so I need you to start getting colonoscopies at age 40 because we believe it's illness related or family related, then also this would be a reimbursable amount. In addition to that, we do the office visits, which is the second part of the works, right? So office visits, this is going to be for sick or injury visits, not your wellness. That was covered at the top. This is for sick or injury. Doctor office, anywhere from 80 to 125 per visit. Specialist or urgent care, 100 to 150 per visit. Office visit within office surgery in lieu of doctor, specialist, urgent care, right? That's a mouthful. And the best example I can give you of when that would apply is like dermatological. So you go to the dermatologist, you say, can you look at this spot on my skin? And they say, yep, and we need to remove that today. That's an in-office surgery. So then we would pay this benefit instead of a doctor or specialist visit amount. And you get 4, 5, or 6 of those combined per calendar year per person on the policy. The one other thing I'd point out, because this is a common mistake people make when they purchase the plan, I get this call probably monthly from a broker. Renee, my client went for a wellness visit and you guys didn't reimburse. First thing I ask is, when did they go? Oh, they went a week into their plan. You'll notice there in the blue band on the left-hand side, the first wellness visit, when they get on the plan, you have to wait 30 days before you go in for your wellness visit. Every year after that, doesn't matter. It's just when you first get on the plan, do not go for your wellness visit for the first 30 days or it won't be reimbursable. And then chiropractic, physical, occupational speech therapy, those types of things, not covered on Works 1, but Works 2 and 3 up to 35 or 45 per visit. And it's a total of 10 visits that we reimburse per calendar year. Another misnomer, don't read the prescription drugs as copays. We're so all used to reading prescription drug benefits as a copay, right? Because we're all used to ACA or tri-term or short-term plans. These are, again, all reimbursements. So name brands, we're going to reimburse 40 to 60 per fill, generics 10 to 20 per fill, for a combined 12, 15, or 20 fills a year of either of those two types, generic or brand. So I'm going to use my mom as I use my mom as an example all the time. Again, let's look at Works 3. She takes a generic medication for blood pressure that costs her $4 a month. It's on the $4 list at Walmart, Walgreens. Everybody knows the story, right? So she goes in and she fills her $4 blood pressure medication. If she had Works 3, she goes to the pharmacist. She hands them their HPG medical card, which is going to have the policy number on it, and her Optum Perks discount card, which she also gets with the policy. They have to hand both at the pharmacy, both the medical card that's got her policy number on it. It tells us who she is and who we need to reimburse. And the Optum Perks card is going to give them a discount, and it tells the pharmacist the BIN, the PCN, and the RX number so they can fill that prescription. The pharmacist then will submit the prescription to us, and we will reimburse in the amount that your plan is reimbursable for. So in my mom's scenario, $4 prescription is sent into us for a generic. We are going to send my mom a check for $20 because $20 is what she purchased on her plan. I also get asked about mail order. Mail order is typically for 90 days or 3 months. This is based on fills, not months that you've received medication for. So a lot of people like to use mail order because sometimes it's cheaper. But if you use mail order and it was a mail order for 90 days, that's one fill. So we're only going to reimburse on that Works 3, for instance, $60 or $20 for one fill. So sometimes people do then not want to use mail order because they could submit per month then, and each of those months would count as a fill. So just something to be aware of. These are additional benefits that we pay on the all works levels. $25 each for up to 4 child immunizations and or a flu shot. That's for anybody under the age of 18. $10 each for up to 10 child allergy treatments. If you're 18 or over, we reimburse $25 for an annual adult flu shot, $100 for 1 pap smear for adult females, and $40 or 40 and over males, we reimburse $100 for 1 PSA test. Again, those are all wellness, so you're subject to that initial first 30-day waiting period, the first year. And then you're going to take one of those works levels, 1, 2, or 3, and you're going to pair it with what I would consider the big stuff, or what we call critical medical services. 4 plans here: Choice, Select, Preferred, and Premier. Choice is the least expensive. Premier is the most expensive. What I would tell you is HPG serves a wide range of people. I have a lot of brokers that have gone to selling the cheapest bronze plan to a person who has the doctor in that network and then pairing it with a Choice 1 plan. So if you are selling this with ACA, I would say Choice 1 is your go-to. And when I say Choice 1, that means we paired Choice with the Works 1 from the previous page. So Choice 1 is the most common combination that is paired when selling it in conjunction with an ACA plan. And why is that? Because ACA has a stop loss. You don't need the most benefit-rich fixed indemnity plan if you have a stop loss, albeit almost a $9,200 or $9,300 on your ACA plan. This is just going to help people pay that $9,000 deductible or out-of-pocket exposure they have on their ACA plan. For somebody who does not have underlying coverage, they don't have an underlying ACA short-term, tri-term, they don't have any other type of underlying coverage, they are buying this standalone, which many, many, many people are. I would ask you to sell Preferred or Premier, because for somebody that doesn't have an underlying stop loss, I need to give them the most benefit I can possibly give them, right, to protect them adequately. And in turn, I would suggest selling an accident and or a CI policy in conjunction with it. And we're going to talk about those at the end. But I always ask on this one, for people who don't think that these plans work for people, does anybody know what the average cost of a 1 day in the hospital would be? 1 day, just to stay in the hospital 1 day. Average cost is $2,800 on a national level. You can Google it. Google inpatient 1 day hospital stay. $2,800 is the national average right now. $2,800 is also wholesale before any negotiated rate gets applied. So if I am selling this plan to somebody by itself at a $3,000 or $5,000 level, that is where I am creating extra dollars for that person in the event that some other piece of medical care that they received did not pay as well for them on HPG. So if 2,800 is the national average and United's national average discount is 58%, I'm going to round it down to 50 for just ease of doing math. I'm talking maybe $1,400 a day in the hospital. If I sell you the Premier plan, I'm giving you $5,000 per day. Creates an overage of money to use for other medical expenses that you may have been billed for. And when people tell you, no, Renee, that's wrong. I got a client who had a $76,000 hospital bill. They didn't get a $76,000 hospital bill for room and board. They got a $76,000 itemized hospital bill for everything they had done in the hospital, including their room and board, right? So they had surgery, they had doctors coming in and out of the room, they had tests done while they were in the hospital, and they had room and board because they stayed in a bed in a hospital. That's what those big bills consist of. Nobody has a $76,000 room and board bill. So when you have that big bill, I'm now creating an overage for you, especially on the Premier and the Preferred, to use for other expenses that HPG may not pay as well for. And that's why it works. On top of that, intensive care, we're going to give you an additional same dollar amount. So if I'm on the Preferred or Premier, I'm getting $10,000 a day in the hospital. 31 of those would be for ICU. 31 days is what we cap ICU at. The inpatient hospital confinement is unlimited. Plus then you get an additional anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 just for being admitted day 1. ER will reimburse a 1 day trip to the ER, either from $400 to $1,000 per day. Groundwater air ambulance, a combined 2 trips a year and reimbursable at either 5 to 1,000 for groundwater, 5 for air on those. We have a 7-tier surgical schedule, which we're going to talk about in a second. And then outpatient labs, x-rays, diagnostic, all those other tests that doctors do to diagnose what might be wrong with you. Again, not wellness. That was on the previous page. This is the additional testing when they feel they need to diagnose an illness. All reimbursable at the amounts that you see there, up to 4 or 5 tests per year, depending upon what plan you choose. And then oral chemotherapy and outpatient chemotherapy reimbursable at the amounts listed below. 7-tier surgical schedule. We could not possibly list every surgery, sorry about that everyone could possibly have on one page of a slide, right? So this is just going to give you generalized examples of things that could fall into each of these categories. And then you can see that we reimburse according to what tier that falls in. Most times when you're going to have surgery, it's going to be pre-auth either by the provider or the hospital. They give us a CPT code, and we're going to tell them when they call into the service team exactly what tier that surgery falls into and what dollar amount that they can expect to be reimbursed. Also, if it's a more minor surgery that doesn't need to get pre-authed, the client can still ask for the CPT code for the surgery and call in themselves, and we'll tell them what amount we're going to reimburse them. On top of that benefit, we're going to do assistant surgeon at 20% of the stated benefit and the anesthesiologist at 30% of the stated benefit. Now, again, I use my own family as personal examples, typically when I'm doing these trainings, and for brokers who tell me these plans don't work. My dad had a heart attack approximately 7-8 years ago. Lives in Wisconsin. He was on a Medicare Advantage plan with UnitedHealthOne. So he's on the Advantage plan. That aside, it used the Choice Plus network. Choice Plus is Choice Plus is Choice Plus, no matter what United plan we attach it to, right? The discount in Choice Plus is what it is. It doesn't matter what plan we attach it to. So I could see my dad's discounts in the Choice Plus network for all the things he had done. He was airlifted to the hospital. He had open heart surgery, got a subsequent infection, spent a bunch of days in ICU. I took all of his bills and ran it through if he had the Premier plan, because I could see what his bills were and what our negotiated rate was. The total bills, now this does go back 8 or 9 years, and it is Green Bay, Wisconsin, so it's a different demographic than maybe some other parts of the country, right? But my dad's bills all in were like $170,000, $180,000. We negotiated it back to $26,000. My dad would have been paid $50,000 just for his surgery, his open heart surgery alone, not including any of his time spent in the hospital. My dad would have made money off this plan. I also have a broker that I work with in the state of Arizona, did a very similar thing. He had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. It was as bad as it gets, right? He ran all his bills through as if he had the select plan, which is not even the best plan. At the end of the day, all of his treatments, his surgeries, his hospitalizations, his doctor office visits, he told me he would have made $27,000 off of his pancreatic cancer. So the plans do work. Do they work every single time? I can't guarantee that, but there are very good examples that we have where the plans work very, very well for people, even in catastrophic type situations. 2 million calendar year maximum per covered person on the plan with a 5 million lifetime maximum. Again, remember, keep in mind that 58% discount, round it down to 50 for example's sake. But if I give a 50% discount on average on the services rendered that you're getting medically speaking, 2 million becomes 4 million, 5 million becomes 10 million. In the history of Golden Rule, being an insurance company, we have hit a 2 million calendar year maximum one time, and that was $1 million baby, a baby that was born neonatal, had to spend a lot of time. One time did we hit that. So statistically, not a concern. Benefits increase, like we said, some benefits are going to increase year 2. So they're going to increase the first day of the next full calendar year after you've been in force for more than 6 months. So as long as you buy your policy January through June, your benefits are going to increase that following January, right? Because your plan will have been in force 6 months. If you buy your plan July through December, they're not going to increase in January because you've only had the plan 6 months, little less than 6 months. They want to increase for another year. So you go about 1.5 years if you buy the plan in the second half of the calendar year. And these are the benefits that increase that we alluded to in the first part of the presentation. Hospital benefits double. So instead of $5,000 a day in the hospital, I get 10 on the Premier plan. I'm going to point this out. This is for accident only hospitalization that your benefits would increase. Sickness, you're going to stay at the 5,000. Office visits, this is for sick or injury. You're going to get 2 more in year 2, 4 to 6, 5 to 7, 6 to 8. And then prescription drug reimbursable fills go up by 5. So 12 to 17, 15 to 20, 20 to 25. Health Protector Guard, what are the business rules? 18 to 64 and 11 months is what we can sell the policy. So that's issue ages. We do not do child only on any of our products. Health Protector Guard will be included. Eligible dependent children can stay on till age 26 or as deemed by state. So in the state of Florida, for instance, dependents can stay on their plan till age 30. No child only, we already covered that. And again, guaranteed renewable till age 65. As long as they keep paying their premium, they're going to have a plan with us. As far as rate increases on these plans, you will get an age band increase just because you got a year older next year. Those increases tend to be single digit percentages. Most people don't even realize that they had an increase because they're that nominal. We also can take medical trend increases on these plans based on claims experience of the block of business. We've had these plans since 2016, and I believe at last count, we had taken 2 increases for medical trend over the course of almost 10 years, and they were a 3 and a 5% increase. So again, nominal discounts. These products are very, very shelf stable when it comes to rate. Payment options, just like all of our plans, EFT or credit card. Next day effective date is possible or up to 60 days in advance. Before I go into the accident and CI that we would prefer be paired with this, does anybody have any questions that I can answer on HPG, or are there any questions in the chat? Yes, I can look at the chat. There is one question in the chat. Does Choice Plus PPO include Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic? They include Mayo Clinic for sure. I am about 99%. They also include Cleveland Clinic. And then Ryan, did you have a question on 10K?
That was my guess on the hospital daily stay cost.
Yeah, 10K is what you would get on the Premier plan going into year 2.
No, you would ask, what do you think the estimated cost is?
Oh, yeah, 10K? No, you were way too much. Yeah.
Way off.
Yep, 2,800 is the national average of one-day hospital stay. So, like I mentioned, when you're selling an HPG by itself, really would strongly suggest selling an accident, or at least proposing an accident plan and or a CI plan, preferably both, to your clients. And that is because without the comfort of an underlying stop loss, when you're selling the product by itself, an accident or a major illness are the 2 reasons that people are going to have high out-of-pocket exposures, right? So that's why these plans make sense. Our Accident Pro series, I'm going to go through, it's actually one product with an additional building block. And so this is issue ages 18 to 70. We have both guaranteed issue and simplified issue options. Plans that include CI have a 30-day waiting period for the CI benefit. No application fee. These are not attached to networks because with these particular plans, we're going to reimburse the client directly. Ryan, do you have a question?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. It's just more like a comment back to the HPG. A lot of agents sell like the Pivot or Allstate indemnities. Is there a a differentiator for the HPGs that, besides the Choice Plus PPO network, that is a strong argument of why the HPGs are better than any of the other indemnity plans, or
As
should
far
be
as
offered?
HPG?
Yeah. Comparing the indemnity to indemnity. So like,
Yep.
I assume like Manhattan and Pivot and Allstate,
Philadelphia American. Yeah, those are
Yeah.
some that we come up against pretty often. Typically, we can go up higher on the hospitalization part of it, the hospitalization benefit. Benefit by benefit, typically our benefits tend to be stronger and higher as to the amounts that we're going to reimburse. Um, the strength of the network is something that's largely undersold on our plans. There's nobody that has a better discount on medical services than United's Choice Plus network. I've never seen it. And I've seen Blue Cross's discounted rates. I've seen Humana's discounted rates. I've seen that Allstate leases their network, right? They don't own their network. So that's the other big differentiator for us that sometimes people fail to understand. If I own my network, like United owns our network, we're not paying a leasing fee. So when a company has to lease a network, like PHCS or Aetna or some of these multi-plan, that carrier is paying a leasing fee to access that network. So typically that sometimes influences price, and negotiated rates might not be as good because Allstate doesn't have control over that negotiated rate. They're relying on a third party to negotiate for them, and they just have to accept what that third party is able to negotiate. So we have the power of the negotiation. It's one of those things where for a consumer, they just have to believe us, right? It's like they can't see the power of our negotiated rate unless they buy the plan and use it. And that's something that they kind of have to take our word for. I can get you over some claims examples, which I will after this presentation. I'll send it to Ryan and Stephanie, and they can distribute to everybody of some actionable HPG examples of how claims were paid. And you can see what our negotiated rates look like in some of those scenarios. So I'll send those over. The other thing on accident is treatment within 48 hours for those things on the left: burns or lacerations, concussions, ER, and urgent care. You have to go within 48 hours for it to be reimbursable under the accident plan. And then you have to have treatment within 30 days of when you got hurt or injured for the services on the right-hand side of the screen. The only services that are reimbursable would be services rendered within this time frame. So unfortunately, if you go to a doctor office 45 days after your accident, that would not be a reimbursable expense under the accident plan. 3 products in this plan family. Accident Expense Guard is just the accident plan. So that's accident, AD&D. And you choose your accident benefit amount, 5 to 20 grand. First claim, we're going to subtract a $250 deductible off of that. Your AD&D benefit is just going to match your accidental injury amount. So, example, if I have an accident and it costs $15,000 and I have a $20,000 benefit level, it's going to pay the 15. It's going to send you a check for 15. And quite honestly, you can do what you want with the money, but we're sending you a check for 15. So we pay either up to the benefit amount or the amount of the accident. Accident Pro Guard is just an additional building block. So you're going to get accident, you're going to get AD&D, and you're going to get a critical illness benefit on this plan. So that's the one additional building block on the Pro Guard. There is on the Pro Guard both a guarantee issue and a simplified issue, like you see on the top. Main difference being is guarantee issue, you're not going to get as much of a benefit level when it comes to the accident or the CI. You're not going to get as high of benefit levels as you will with the simplified issue. The guarantee issue is guarantee issue. We don't do any underwriting. You'll get the policy tomorrow. Simplified issue would apply to this simplified issue accident Pro Guard as well as HPG. So HPG is also simplified issue. And what we mean by any product that we ask medical questions on, the story is always going to be the same. If your client answers no to the medical questions on the application gets submitted to underwriting. If they answer yes to any medical question on the application, that person will not be offered coverage. Now, if your client answered no to everything, gets submitted to underwriting, you see a decline the next day in your broker portal. I get a call saying, Renee, they answered no to everything. They don't have anything going on. Why did you decline them? What we do when we get that application is we run a claims database check, meaning if that client was ever insured with a United company in the time that we're looking for on the application. So if the application says in the past 5 years, right, we're going to get that application and we're going to see if that client was ever insured with a United company, ACA, short-term, tri-term, community and state, any group, any UHC product. We can see the claims that they filed, right? We can see the claims codes. We can see what they were seeing for. If they told me I'm not diabetic on the application, and we see they were insured with United Group 2 years ago, and they were filing claims for metformin on a monthly basis, pretty strong indicator they're diabetic. We're going to decline them. We're not declining them because we underwrote them. We're going to decline them because we caught them essentially telling a lie on the application, right? Now, do doctors make mistakes? Do billing offices make mistakes? Do we make mistakes? Yes. However, it is going to be just like a credit report. It is up to the consumer to prove to us that our finding is different. So just like on a credit report, you see something come through and you're like, that's not me. I didn't charge that. I don't have that credit card. The credit card company is going to say to you, you have to prove that to us before we take that off. Same thing, unfortunately, with insurance companies. If you say you're not diabetic, I need 5 years worth of medical records to file an appeal. Appeals do take 30 to 60 days to be reviewed. So just want to be upfront about that. I have seen appeals overturned because there was a wrong diagnostic code that the doctor put in, you know, something like that. But that is what we would need. We'd need 5 years worth of medical records at the client's expense to appeal a decline if they feel that it is not just. And then the third in the Accident Pro series is the Accident Pro Gap. So again, one additional building block: accident, AD&D, CI, and the one additional building block here is the hospital admission benefit that you see at the bottom. $2,500, one per covered person per calendar year. They have to be minimum in the hospital 24 hours due to a sickness. People always say, Renee, why is it sickness? Because if they're hospitalized due to an accident, your accident amount is going to kick in and pay for you. So a lot of my clients that have ACA, you can buy this product standalone as well, right? You don't have to buy it in conjunction with Health Protector Guard. Some of my brokers sell this in conjunction with an ACA plan. This first dollar hospital admission benefit for sickness would be $2,500 that comes off their deductible that we'd reimburse them for. So quick example, kind of we already talked about it, but let's say this gentleman bought a $10,000 accident plan with us. Gets into a bike accident, fractures his arm, ambulance takes him to the hospital. He's got surgery to repair the fracture, and his total bills are $7,006. We take $7,006 minus the $250 deductible, because it was the first accident that he had this year. So we minus that deductible off. $67.56 is what we owe him and what we would pay him, because he's got a 10,000 benefit level. We pay the amount of the accident or the benefit level, whichever is less. He then has a remaining $3,244 left. 10 minus 67.56 is 32.44 that he could use for any other accidents that might happen that year. And then the benefits start over the following year. The critical illness that gets attached to the plans that we looked at, ProGap and ProGuard had the CI attached. 14 covered conditions that you see listed there. 30-day waiting period once they purchase the policy before they can file a claim against the CI benefit. The primary insured is going to get the full amount. Dependents would get 50% of the amount. We pay per illness, and we pay up to 3 triggers. So what I mean by that is, let's say they have a heart attack, they get 10 grand on a $10,000 benefit level. At least 180 days has to occur between that and the next event. But if 180 days later they get invasive cancer, we pay that benefit amount. And 180 days later they have 3rd-degree burns, very unlucky individual, we would pay 10 grand, and then the plan would cease. That portion of the plan would cease, the CI benefit. So up to 3 triggers. It does not pay on the same trigger twice. So that's why you saw the crossing off on the left-hand side. You could have a heart attack this year, we're going to pay, but if you have a heart attack next year, we don't pay again. So it's going to be 3 separate triggers that we would pay on. We won't pay on the same trigger twice. On these, because there's no network attached, it is the customer's responsibility to file the claim. For any plans other than short-term and tri-term, It is one member portal. So at uhcmemberhub.com for any and all plans other than short-term and tri-term. And we ask that the claim be uploaded in 30 days or as soon as reasonably possible. Claims is very lenient with people on the soon as reasonably possible part, because if somebody's in a coma for 30 days, they couldn't file their claim, right? That's not fair. So claims is very good. Now, I did work with a broker who tried to submit an accident claim 9 months later. That was not okay. So as soon as reasonably possible. Critical Guard is the standalone critical illness policy. And the question gets asked, why would I sell critical illness by itself when I could just bundle it with one of the previous accident plans that I just showed you? The reason is going to be because I can get you much higher levels of coverage if it's a standalone CI policy. So that's why some brokers may elect to just sell the accident expense guard, which is just the accident, and a separate standalone CI policy, because I can get you much higher levels. 18 to 90 is the issue ages. Again, no application fee. Pre-existing period, it's a standard 12-month look back and a 12-month pre-ex period. Effective dates work the same next day or up to 60 days in advance. Again, renewable for life. As long as the client continues to pay us premium, they will have the policy with us. In this plan portfolio as well, two choices: simplified issue, which means I'm going to ask some underwriting questions, guarantee issue. Again, the big difference, you can see it there on the screen, much less dollar amounts that I will offer on a guarantee issue product than I will on a simplified issue product. But guarantee issue is guarantee issue. We're not checking for anything. Could have cancer today, get on the plan tomorrow. Now that's the caveat. Critical illness plans will only pay on first diagnosis. So if you are going to buy a plan and you have cancer today, I am not paying on that cancer ever, because it's not a first diagnosis. Now that gets a little fuzzy though, right? So let's say a person has prostate cancer. They buy the plan. They're not able to file a claim against their prostate cancer ever, because that was they had that prior to getting on the policy with us, and that was not diagnosed for the first time while they were on the policy with us. Now that same person, let's say 2 years from now, gets diagnosed with lung cancer not related to the original prostate cancer. That would be his first diagnosis of lung cancer, and that would be reimbursable under the plan. So we get asked that question a lot. It is first diagnosis of, once you're on the plan. Simplified issue, it's going to work the same way we talked about. Answer no to the medical questions, you'll get a plan. Answer yes, you will not. And then we do the claims check at the back end to make sure that the client was being truthful about their answers and we don't have any claims history with United telling us differently. 4 plans that you could choose from. You can do just cancer, you can do heart stroke, and you can do cancer heart stroke. And then you can do the full suite, we call it, or the critical illness, which is plan number 4. That is the best-selling plan in this product portfolio. And again, we would pay up to 3 times, but only 1 per plan category. So I would pay for a cancer, I would pay for a heart attack or stroke, and I would pay for Alzheimer's, for instance. However, I'm not going to pay on a heart attack and a stroke. It's 1 in each category is what I would pay. And then optional benefits that you can rider on for an additional cost would be a wellness rider, which we reimburse $75 just for having a physical once a year. The outpatient prescription drug rider, this is what sells this plan, especially in the older demographics, because this does not utilize pre-ex. So for instance, if I'm somebody who's on a bunch of medications right now, and I bought this plan, I could the very next day start submitting my prescriptions for reimbursement. 15 for generic, 50 for brand, up to a $600 combined total per calendar year. You can make $600 off just by filling your prescription drugs. And that rider doesn't cost you $600. So you're coming ahead by buying that rider. Telemedicine would be our Healthiest You platform, and you could rider on Teladoc if you chose to do so. Embedded services, you get the Optum Perks card here as well. because this is a standalone product. So even if you don't buy HPG, you're still going to get the Optum Perks card. Pregnancy benefit. This is not because you're pregnant. It's going to be if you have one of those critical illnesses and are also pregnant at the same time, you would get an additional 50% of the benefit amount. And then there is a COVID benefit. It's $10K once per lifetime. You have to be confined to ICU with a positive COVID diagnosis for that to pay. And then there are other things like heart disease management and cancer support in the form of like being able to talk to a nurse, applications, resources like that that you could tap into as well. All of the products, again, we already talked, but I'll say it again. All the products, with the exception of short-term and tri-term, are housed on the member portal. So if they buy 3 or 4 things from us, and it's not short-term or tri-term, they just have to register once for uhcmemberhub.com, and it will show them all their things. If I bought HPG, CI, an accident, I register one time, and it will show me that I have all of these different things with UHC. No ID card for critical illness, no ID card for accident, because there's none needed. You just have to upload your documentation, and then we send a check to you in the amount that we owe you. Lastly, just some food for thought. Sometimes presenting CI tends to be, I don't think it's difficult, but you kind of want to, we need to really name this slide because internally we kind of call it the lawyer questions, right? So if you're a trial attorney, you are typically going to ask the witness questions that you already know the answer to, right? You know how they're going to answer, leading the witness. So these are kind of what we consider those questions when it comes to selling critical illness. Who do you know? Who do you know that's had cancer, heart attack, stroke? Everyone knows somebody that knows somebody, right? That's how one of those things happen in their family or friend circle. Was it expected? No one is going to say, yes, I expected my grandfather to have a heart attack tomorrow, right? Nobody's going to say yes to that question. Everybody's going to say no. Of course, all of these things are unexpected and unprepared for. Does it create emotional or financial stress? Most times, everybody's going to say yes to that question. And would a lump sum check help ease this burden? Again, everybody's going to say yes to that question. Who is not going to say yes? A $10,000 check would have really helped me out to get through some of this. Because cash, like our CI in our accident, although it can be used to offset some of your medical bills, it can also be used for things that medical insurance doesn't pay for. Time from work, that lost wages, travel for treatment, just household bills, mortgages, daycare, that type of thing. So it's just a lump sum check that they're going to get, which they can use for actually whatever they would like to use it for. Ryan and I had talked before doing the presentation, and we had expressed some interest in sharing with everybody what our top selling states are for these products, especially for people who hold non-resident licenses. And if you don't hold a non-resident license, sometimes this slide is enlightening because it would show you if you want to be successful with this particular product type with UnitedHealthOne, maybe I could get a non-resident in one of these states, right? Because this is where we have the most success. Florida and Texas, I can almost promise you 100% of the time that they are always going to be our top 2 states, regardless of what product I'm presenting. I've worked here, I said 20 some years. Florida and Texas have always been the top 2 states for UH1, regardless of plan family. And then it starts to diverge from there, depending. I'm in the state of Pennsylvania. I was a little surprised to know that Pennsylvania is our 3rd biggest HPG producing state. Illinois, that's good for you guys, 4th biggest producing state. And like you can see, Illinois actually is on every one of these lists at some point. But these are top sales, and this was based on the previous 12 months, and I just ran this today to make sure we had the most up-to-date information on each of these plan families.
Is the Illinois because the state does not allow short-term at all, or is it always been one of the top selling states before any of that?
I looked back, I did this for past rolling 12, so that kind of took into account that there was short-term in some states for part of the year last year and then not because of the executive order. But typically in states that limit short-term, I believe in Illinois, we were selling like 6-month short-terms for a while. So that's not a permanent solution for somebody. Typically states like that, we will see HPG be a bigger seller in because there's some other underlying extenuating circumstance, like they limit the duration of short term. In the case of Pennsylvania, we were the only short term carrier. So it's no wonder that PA is now like 3rd biggest producing HPG because there is no short-term other than our 4-month short-term here. So, and very little competition in the fixed indemnity space. Colorado is like that. Colorado does not allow short-term. They didn't allow short-term. So that tends to be a top selling state for us there. Florida and Texas don't have that dynamic. Florida and Texas have our full product portfolio, but I think it's just the mix of people. HPG is really, really good for, we talked about people who aren't getting a subsidy or aren't getting enough of a subsidy, but we are also talking a lot of people like our HPG product that are snowbirds, right? Because I used to live in, I lived in Wisconsin my whole life. A whole bunch of people in Wisconsin, they snowbird in Florida, right? They spend 6 good months in Wisconsin, and then the 6 cold months they spend in Florida. So if I buy an ACA plan in Wisconsin, a lot of ACA plans in the country aren't letting you travel to another state and access care other than the case of an emergency. So if I get a sinus infection in Florida, I'm probably out of pocket on that. My ACA plan probably isn't doing me much good. So we see that. We see over the road truck drivers, traveling nurses that need access to a national network on a pretty regular basis, and they purchase our plan. So there's usually some dynamic at play as to why a state makes this list. And then this is our service center number. I will also put my direct line in the chat, but this is direct to the service center. uh1.com/broker is the broker portal. If you haven't registered for eStore, that's where you would be able to go and quote all the products, see plan brochures, there's webinars on demand, there's brain sharks. And then I'll also put my number in the chat to share with everybody so that you have my number as well, my name and email. Is there a way to look up negotiated rates ahead of a visit? There is a way to look up cost of care on an average basis out of network. So it's not going to be for sure our published rate, but it will give you a range. So if you went to, and it's not everything, that's a lot of common procedures and office visit type things. If you visit myuhc.com, you can actually, instead of looking up a provider, you start by looking up a provider, and then one of the things it's going to ask you is, do you want to look up cost of care? So there's care by condition and there's cost estimates. And I'll actually share this screen with you so you can see what I'm talking about. When I go to myuhc.com, I'll back out because this is where you're going to land. myuhc.com, find a provider, medical, employer and individual. It's always Choice Plus with the Health Protector Guard. You can change location here. And then here's where you can see, I can look care by condition and cost estimates. And that's where you could put in, if I do cost estimates, this will give you, so here's some common tests, screenings, one I get asked about a lot, colonoscopies. And here it typically, here it's giving you an average cost right here. In that, and this would be our negotiated rate. Also, I'm just doing this right now as a general consumer, but if you see where it says here, log into view cost, once you have a plan with us, you'd actually be able to see actual cost in your particular area. And it's an average, right? It's not going to be to the penny, but it does give people a better idea of what they could be facing.
Renee, would you mind just explaining again the combinations that are not just allowed, but like recommended if someone is looking for, the most comprehensive coverage or
Yep,
maybe the most value?
Yeah, if they're buying an ACA plan, a lot of the brokers that I work with have shifted to selling lower cost ACA plans. So sometimes the lowest cost bronze plan that still has the consumers, providers in network, because of course that's important. And then they are partnering that with a choice one. So choice with the works one. Because again, that is just giving somebody added protection to help them meet their deductible. Because Health Protector Guard is first dollar coverage. You can go buy the plan today and go in for a sick visit tomorrow and be eligible for reimbursement. So it helps people to alleviate and not pay right away that large deductible or coinsurance that they might have attached to their ACA plan. If they are purchasing Health Protector Guard as a standalone product, maybe the previous short-term or tri-term consumer or demographic, or that over-the-road truck driver, right, who an ACA plan isn't going to work for, then nothing less than preferred or premier, because it does not have a stop loss. So I have to give them the most protection I can give them, and I would do preferred or premier 2 or 3. And then also talk to them about accident or CI. I actually just had a broker this week who called me and said, I have a client who has a Health Protector Guard. They bought a 4-month short term. I don't know what they were thinking, because 4 months later, the plan is going to end. Their 4-month plan ended. They bought Health Protector Guard. A week into the policy, and they were presented accident and CI. Broker did present both. A week into the plan, the lady trips in a hole and has torn like her Achilles tendon, has to have surgery on her Achilles tendon. And we were working out what tier does the surgery fall in, how much she should expect there, how much for, different points of care, were her providers in network. So I was helping him navigate through getting the most bang for her buck. And I said, did you sell her an accident plan? And the broker's like, I presented one, but she didn't take it. This is why. This is why we strongly suggest it, because she could have had 10 or 20 grand immediately in her pocket to start going toward those bills before HPG even paid anything. So that's what we would suggest for those reasons, because accident and critical illness are going to be ways people hit more out-of-pocket exposure. The other thing I would say on Health Protector Guard is that we do have a third-party vendor, that if somebody is left with a larger bill or a larger balance due to them, we have a third-party vendor we put the client in touch with called MedSense, and that is a third party that attempts to negotiate the bill down further for them. Now, HPG, because it's first dollar coverage, the expectation should never be set that your client's not going to pay anything for medical, right? It's not designed to pay for everything. No plan's going to pay for everything. ACA, my short term, my tri-term, you still had a deductible and coinsurance. You still had out-of-pocket exposure. So what MedSense is looking to do if they get involved would be to negotiate that person down into the realm of an ACA deductible. Because if they bought an ACA plan, that's what they would be expected to pay.
So if they have a standalone HPG plan, for accident, is it better to offer if you're going to bundle just a standalone accident, or one of these guards, or you
I
can't
typically
combine
see sold the accident expense guard, which is just the accident, in the amount of 10 or 20K, depending upon their budget, and then a separate critical illness plan, the critical guard. I would say if they can't afford to buy 2 separate, like the accident expense guard and the critical guard, then you could go to something like the Pro Gap or the Pro Guard, which has the CI bundled in. It's just they're not going to get as high a benefit level potentially.
Sure. I know we're almost out of time, but I have one more question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Back to the prescription drugs. So on the optional critical illness benefit, as well as the HPG benefit, that's completely is that completely touchless? Meaning, like, you get a prescription, you pay your, let's say it's $4 in the example. Do you automatically get your reimbursement back without submitting a claim? Does the pharmacy do that automatically when they process your insurance card, or what's that process typically like?
Yep. So if the pharmacy is in network, the only other thing the client has to remember to do, which they fail to do, is when I see this typically happen, they have to present their HPG medical card, because again, that'll have the policy number on it. It tells us who to reimburse. And they must present the Optum Perks card because that has the BIN, the PCN, and the RX number on it that the pharmacist needs to actually fill your prescription. If you present both those cards to the pharmacist files the claim for you with us, and we just send the check to the consumer, the reimbursement check.
Got it. Well, thanks, Renee. I know you said you're going to leave your phone number. If anyone needs to contact her, contact me or Stephanie. We can also put you in contact with her or answer your first question before we need to reach out to her about these products.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Renee.
You're welcome. And then I think Stephanie and Ryan, maybe we just